Hi everyone, Fikrat is here and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to create our very first data integration pipeline. As I mentioned in earlier sessions, data integration pipeline may contain multiple activities. We will start with copy activity, and there are various ways of creating copy activity. I will say easiest way of doing that is using copy assistant. So we will start with copy assistant, and then I'll show a couple other ways of creating copy activity. I have Microsoft Fabric open here, and from here I'll go and select Data Factory service. Alright, now that we're in Data Factory, we can select workspace where we want to create our pipeline. So if I select list of my workspaces, I can see the workspace that I have created earlier. So I will select this, and this will present me create screen. So new screen where you can go ahead and create different artifacts, Microsoft Fabric artifacts. So I'll select data pipeline and the name pipeline. And this creates new empty pipeline. If I switch to activities tab, you can see various types of activities that I can add to my pipeline. So I'll start with copy data. So if I hit here, there are at least two ways of creating copy activity. So I'll use copy assistant, which will lead to various questions. So with dialog wizard with various questions. So as you can see, we can select either from sample data, or if I scroll down, there are different data sources I can select from. So that we can select from databases, files, and other data sources. So I'll select sample data, and as you can see, it comes in different format. There are some data coming in Parquet and some data coming in CSV or JSON. I'll select COVID-19 data and hit next. And for COVID-19, we have few different flavors of this. So you can see we have CSV format, and it comes also in JSON and Parquet. So I'll select CSV, which to me is easiest way to get started. So once I select it, I can see the structure of the data, and I can also see the sample data here. As you can see, most of our columns, some of our columns are numeric, whereas some timestamp and ID column is integer. Okay, I'll hit next, and now I have to select destination. For the purpose of this pipeline, I am going to select workspace and the lake house. Hit next, and now I can name the lake house where data will be going. So I'll call it CV lake house. Go with lake house. Hit next. Now I have to select a table name. So you can see that table, there's a default table name proposed for me, but I will just edit that and leave bin COVID-19. And once I specify table name, I can also select destination column names as well as types. So by default, Fabric propose you same column names and types as your source. So you can see that we have same column names, but we can also change some of the names and the types. So because we already know that updated is timestamp, I'll select timestamp. I also know that load time is timestamp. I'll select this timestamp as well. And for few numeric data types, I'll select integer. Confirm, change. So you can also type it. I will leave the rest as is for now and hit next. This completes wizard dialog. By default, if I leave the checkbox checked, the pipeline will start as soon as it's created. So I'll leave it and click save and run. And this will open output window, output tab for pipeline. And as we can see, the pipeline for now it's queued. While the pipeline is running, we can examine certain properties of the activities that was added automatically. So I will click copy data, and we can see that activity name, which I can change if needed. If I switch to source tab, I can see that it's using sample data set, but there are also options to select from external data sources or workspace. And I can also examine destination properties. So in this case, we can see that data goes to lakehouse. So this is my lakehouse name. This is my table name. And this is my mapping. So if needed, I can come back and change the mapping as needed. So my pipeline is progressing well. While it's running, I can also click this link and get some details about execution. So in this screen, we can see source and the destination statistics. So we can see how much data has been read from source, number of files, number of rows, as well as number of similar statistics for destination. So this is very useful when you run long pipeline, and you can come back and get some sense of its expected duration. I'll close this. As you can see, my pipeline have completed successfully. Now I can go and examine that lakehouse where data has been written. So if I click here, this is my lakehouse. I'll click and open this. And as you can see, the table is already here. Table has been created for us. I can examine its structure. As I click on table, it will show me data sample. All right, now that we know how to create simple copy activity, we'll do something slightly more complex. So I'm going to ingest Azure SQL table to Lakehouse. I have created Azure SQL database, AdventureWorks, on the base of AdventureWorks sample database, and I'm going to ingest one of the tables from that database. So I'll go ahead and add copy activity, another copy activity here to my pipeline, and I'll name this activity as copy from Azure SQL. Now if I switch to source, this time I'm going to select external source because this is external to Microsoft Fabric. So I don't have connection created yet for this, so I'll click new, and that will allow us to choose from different sources. So my source is Azure SQL, hit next, and now I have to enter my server, database, and credentials. So my server name, my database name, I'm gonna use basic authentication method and provide username. Username and password. Great. And my source connection has been created successfully. Now I can select from different connection types. I'm going to select Azure SQL database, and now I can select my table. So if I click here, I can see a list of my tables. I choose customer table, and then so we're done with source properties. Now I can switch to destination and select data store type. So just like with previous activity, I'm going to write in the workspace. So Lakehouse, I'll select my Lakehouse as a type, workspace type, and from here I can use existing Lakehouse. So I'm going to write this table into COVID-LH Lakehouse. Now I have to specify my table name. I'm going to say customer. I can also change mapping, but for now I'll just leave it as is. Okay, so my pipeline is ready. I'll save my pipeline and run it again. All right, so my pipeline is in progress. Here I can click my link and examine statistics. So data statistics, we can see how many rows have been read and written. So as you can see, it's pretty small table. So my SQL activity completed. Now I have sample data activity still in progress. Okay, now I can go ahead and examine my data again. So as you can see, we have shortcut here for my lakehouse. So if I click this, I should be able to see my table here and refresh my table list. Here is my customer table. I can click and see my sample data. So the third activity I am gonna add will ingest from data lake storage, and I have uploaded sample JSON file there, so nested JSON file. I'm going to ingest it into data lakehouse, just like I did for other activities. So let's go ahead and create copy activity, another copy activity. I'll call it copy from ADLS. The source. I'm going to create another connection, and this one is going to be Azure Blob Storage type. I'll put blob storage name. Create new connection. I'll call it ADLS Fabric. And I'm going to use account key for that. So as you can see, there are multiple authentication options for ADLS blob storage. I'm going to use account key. And hit create. Now I can go ahead and browse storage, and this is my JSON file, and I'll also need to specify a file type, file format. So I know that this is JSON, and as soon as I select file format, now I have preview data button available, so I'll click that. So as you can see, this is nested JSON data describing some suites. I have ID column, numeric, and for the most part I can see that data types are string. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and configure destination now. Lakehouse, I'm going to say it's gonna go to the same lakehouse, and the table name is going to be suites. Let's switch to mapping, and I can import schema from JSON. So if I click here, now I have source, column ID, column names and types, as well as destination. Okay, so you can see that Fabric has made JSON parsing very easy. So it has parsed nested information, nested data, and so this is proposed column names, but I will use something. I'll rename some of the column names to avoid having dot in column types. Topping ID, and I am going to say topping ID is going to be integer. As well as ID is going to be integer. Okay, now I can go ahead and save my pipeline, and I'll run the pipeline again. Okay, my pipeline is still running. However, ADLS activity has completed successfully. Now I can go ahead and examine the data. So it's COVID. I'll go to COVID lake house and then refresh, and now I can see suites data. So this concludes our session. Just to recap, today we have created pipeline, data integration pipeline, and then we added 3 activities there. So one for ingesting sample data sets provided with Fabric. Then we ingested data from Azure SQL database. And finally, we ingested data from data lake storage. So we ingested basically JSON file from data lake storage. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.